more on this, I'm joined live tonight by Stephen Farnsworth. He's an expert on the American presidency and international relations from the University of Mary Washington in Virginia. Stephen, is this all just a show without Vladimir Zelensky taking part?
Well, in many ways, it is just that. But it is a necessary first step. The reality is that there needs to be a ceasefire for this to be anything other than a step forward. You get a step forward if there's a ceasefire. If there's not a ceasefire, then we'll continue to see a horrific situation in Ukraine.
Can they make a fair deal that isn't skewed towards Russian or American interests if Ukrainian officials aren't even part of the talks?
Well, if you could get a preliminary step of a ceasefire, that would be absolutely in everyone's interest. But there needs to be no conditions on that. Then you go to the next step in terms of figuring out what to do. I think that a lot of Europeans are very concerned that President Trump will be too quick to make a deal with President Putin. And that is a big, big concern in Ukraine as well as in Europe. And so I think the key question here is to what extent will this be a progress that would be acceptable to Kyiv? Because without Ukrainian support of any kind of movement forward, there's going to be a very, very limited amount of accomplishment out of this session.
Now, this was supposed to be a one-on-one meeting between Trump and Putin. Late this afternoon, it emerged that was no longer the case. They were going to have advisors with them. What significance is there in that change at the last minute? Do you read anything into that?
Well, I think the important thing to recognize is that the reality of having Secretary of State Rubio in the room is a powerful incentive for Americans not to make too quick, too easy a deal with respect to what Putin might want. Throughout his career in the Senate, Marco Rubio has been a very, very vigorous scrutiny, favoring very vigorous scrutiny of Putin and of Russia, very critical of their human rights violations from start to finish during the Putin years. And that is a really, really powerful dynamic. I think that one of the things that went wrong, if you will, during the first Trump presidency was that Trump wasn't sufficiently critical, wasn't sufficiently skeptical of Putin. And having other people in the room like Rubio may create a more tempered environment than what we saw in the previous meeting with these two leaders in Europe during Trump's first term.
Last question for you, sir. Trump has said that he's not going to be happy if there isn't a ceasefire as a result of this meeting. What do you think the chances are that Trump walks out with a ceasefire deal?
Well, it's clear that Trump wants this, but what's not clear is that Putin wants this. When you think about the investment that Putin has made in this horrific invasion, this unprovoked attack on Ukraine, a violation of course, international law and international agreements that Russia itself was a party to, you have to wonder whether Putin would just say there's going to be a ceasefire. The reality is that the Putin strategy has always been that Ukraine is a smaller country and that they can be worn down, and the costs that Russia has to pay, well, Russia will pay them. One of the advantages, of course, of being an authoritarian leader is there's very little dissent when you go down the road of really, really costly policies for your country.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that's Stephen Farnsworth from the University of Mary Washington. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.